let me try some new things, and let me start again, and let me quit wasting time, quit wasting time.
Locally based free jazz electronica artist here in the studio. Now, his name is Michael Raphael, and he goes by the name Coolfog.
Thanks for having me here.
No problem. I hope you enjoyed Propeller there. That was the first artist I played today. I was been saving it up for someone like Coolfog because I figured. Did you like it? Yeah.
Oh yeah, I did. It was relaxing.
Yeah, definitely. Sort of in the mood of what we're going to be hearing from Michael's project very soon. And so, just once again, the guy's name was Propeller. That was the project name. And I mean, if anyone knows whether Propeller is still around, you can call through 604-822-2487 if you're a Propeller fan. They were put out on Scratch Records, which is a great local independent label. They did mostly garagey kind of stuff. I'm surprised that that artist was on their label. So Michael is in the studio here today. He goes by the name Coolfog, and like I said earlier, we just connected online because Michael found my website, and I'm really glad that you contacted me because today's your day. Michael, what can you tell us about your beginnings in your exploration of music, of making it yourself?
Well, basically, I've always loved electronic music, and I had my first synths when I was, I guess, in my late teens, and was pretty much overwhelmed by them, but it didn't stop my love of synths. And later in life, in my 30s, I got some synths because you can now build a studio basically at home. So we live in a great age where, you don't have to, you can basically be your own musician and produce your own tracks at home. And a lot of great synths from the 80s that were quite expensive and out of the reach of most people, you can pick up secondhand, and if you know how to tinker and you can fix them, you can basically try out a lot of analog gear from the 80s and play with those. So
well, there must be a whole scene now. Like, are you part of, like, say, an online community that kind of talks about synths, or that you hunt them down? It must be quite a
basically, I mean, I listen to the music, and you can go on YouTube, and you can. If you're interested in a piece of gear, you can go on YouTube and listen to the way it sounds. Somebody will be demonstrating it, and then if you like the sounds, then I've also picked up a few pieces of the gear and then listened to them and played with them and then sold them.
Yeah. Oh, it's such a cool thing. Yeah, like revisiting and making use of what a lot of people might have thought was obsolete, but if you've got the skills to tinker, that's even better. Well, let's go right into one of Michael's tracks so we know what we're talking about here. Now, what we have your CD queued up here. What track number did you want to start with?
I'm not
what do you have down here?
Kaboom.
Yeah. Track 1.
I don't know if it's track 1 on the CD.
Okay. Well, we'll start with track 1 anyway. We'll see how we go, and you can tell us the name of this track. So, we'll listen to Coolfog. He is a local electronic artist, and he's in the studio chatting with us today. Cool. That was, we were just saying that's sort of almost a spoken word type piece there with some beautiful ambient music in the background. Coolfog is the name of the project, and Coolfog is here, aka Michael Raphael. We'll be right back to chat with Michael some more straight after this message. Okay, we're back here on Stranded. So that track from Coolfog there was called Bad Memory. It's the first track off his yet unreleased record, self-titled Coolfog, that you can find online, soundcloud.com/Coolfog. So great. So what can you tell us about, like, I'm really unschooled in the world of electronic music, and you said you used a vocoder on that for the vocals, and what equipment did you use for the actual instrumentation?
Okay, well, one of my roommates a couple years ago, when I first was looking at the software, had Cakewalk, and it was very confusing to me, and so I kind of searched for software that was easier entry point to use and to actually create something with, and I found Mackie Traction, and I was using that. So I used that, and Cycling 76, I think. There's another company that makes plugins, and they have a great vocoder, and I used that, and then so that was a very early track that I made maybe 6 years ago, 5 years ago, yeah.
Wow. And so so basically you you've been recording for quite some time, slowly building up some tracks. And how has it changed there? For 6 years is quite a bit of time now to experiment. Mm-hmm. How have you moved on since that track in terms of equipment or?
Yeah, one of the great things that I got is a hardware recorder, and so I can output analog or digitally from my PC to a hardware recorder, and that's really great just because it gives you different tone, and it also really cuts down on your CPU power, because you're not using your own PC to record and play your instruments. So that's one thing. And then I just got experimented with preamps and outboard gear, samplers more recently. Like I got an Akai a couple of years ago. And then I just go through synths, like in drum machines. I got a drum machine. One of the last things I got was a sequencer, like an outboard hardware sequencer that I'm having a lot of fun with right now. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, I'm curious. I wouldn't mind going forward in time to a track you've recorded relatively recently now to compare and contrast. What we have them up here here on SoundCloud. Is there one that jumps out at you that you'd like to play next? Silver Ogre. I like this. Yeah, I like the sound of that. Here's a track called Silver Ogre by Coolfog. He's based in Vancouver, and he creates some fantastic synth-based music. Okay, some really fascinating sounds here today. Coolfog. And you can find these sounds at https://soundcloud.com/coolfog. And the two tracks you heard there were Silver Ogre and then Orangity 3, whatever that means. Michael, does that word have any?
Orangity.
Well, yeah. What is that? What is?
I guess
Just
the words just evoked from the song.
Yeah. Wow, that was just really wonderful. We even had a caller call through wondering how we could find that online. So I was just saying off air that Michael, I know bugger all about synthesizers, and you started to talk about things like sequencers and MIDI, and I don't really even know what a sequencer is. Can you explain a little bit more about your process of what you're actually doing? The last two tracks that we played there, what are you doing? What box do you have in front of you, and what are you doing with it?
Well, basically, I love hearing interesting sounds in new tracks, and that's what I try to create. So I basically just what I usually do is I experiment with a chain of VST instruments. So it's like software instruments. So you can chain them together. So you can put one input to one output to an input to an output, and then you can shape the sound that way. And that's how I've worked with coming up with a lot of sounds.
Okay. And then what is a synthesizer as distinct from MIDI, or are those terms used interchangeably, or what is MIDI?
I'm not sure when MIDI came about. I think it was probably the early 70s. Somebody's probably going to call and correct me on that. But MIDI is kind of, it's like a communication between devices. So you can send messages, MIDI messages, from one electronic device to another electronic device. So notes, time, like the beats, and things like that.
Okay. And synthesizers themselves, like, have they been around since like the late 60s, or was it more early 70s? Because I think in terms of popular music, like Pete Townsend, I think, was one of the first real popular musicians to make use of them, and that would have probably been the early 70s or late 60s. Do you know much about the history of the synthesizer and its use?
I don't know too much history about it. I know that it did come around at about the 70s, became popular.
Yeah. And we're actually gonna come back. I think I wouldn't mind playing one more track of yours and then coming back and speaking a little bit about some of the tracks that you brought into play today, some of the music that influenced you growing up. Some of it electronic, some of it not. Of course, any great music lovers often got a very eclectic mix of songs that influence their tastes. But let's get back into another track. This is really wonderful to play some really quite fantastic experimental music. Any track next jump out at you here, Michael?
I can play
Functified. Okay, here's Functified by Coolfog, a local free jazz electronic artist here, sitting in the studio, CiTR Radio here in Vancouver. So in the background there, you're hearing the sounds of Coolfog. He is our special guest here in the studio today on Stranded, the Australian-Canadian music and talk show. Wonderful synthesizer-based music. And Michael here was attempting to explain a little bit about how it all works, and I think I'm just going to have to get my hands dirty one of these days, because it's such a mystery to me, and it's such mysterious music. And actually, you were saying the first track there we played was your attempt to write a bit of a James Bond theme. Is that right?
Yeah, Functified.
Yeah, no, I could definitely hear that. Yeah, very very secret agent, mysterious like. Thank you, Michael, for coming in today. Now, as far as your influences in music, you've brought down a couple of records to talk about. I guess close to this genre of music. First of all, you let me know about Mythos. Now, Mythos it looks like a Vancouver act. The only album I can find here in the studio is looks like it's from 2002 roughly, and it's called Eternity. But you've actually found a track for us online called Purity Icarus.
Yeah, I just there's not a lot of electronic bands from Canada, so I just noticed these guys, and they sound they're kind of, I like their electronica. Kind of relaxing.
Yeah. How long have you been listening to them for?
I haven't been listening to them for that often, but they're pretty cool.
Yeah. It's Paul Schmidt and Bob DeEth. So yeah, there's a little bit of a description actually here on the back of the record cover. Mythos combines ethnic influences from Europe to Brazil to the Middle East in their return album Eternity, using piano, Spanish guitar, trumpet, saxophone, variety of vocalists. But anyway, that's we're actually going to play a track off. Looks like it might be another record, because this is the one we got online. So, Purity Icarus. This is an electronic act from Vancouver called Mythos, who are in line with the tastes of our special guest today, Coolfog. So let's get into this track. Okay, we're back here on Stranded, the Australian-Canadian music and talk show on CiTR Radio. You can find us at Twitter at AusStranded. Thanks, Michael Raphael, for coming down to the studio. He's a local electronic artist, and those were two awesome tracks that he picked as being music that he loves. I guess you'd call them influences a little bit. Mythos was the band first up. They're a two-piece electronic outfit from Vancouver. And secondly, we heard Delirium with a song called Flowers Become Screams. Do you know much about Delirium?
Delirium, when I used to live in Ontario, I heard Delirium and I loved it. And then I found out that they're from BC and from Canada. And they didn't get much exposure in Ontario, so there was like a whole world of Canadian music that I wanted to see, and that was coming to BC, I guess, would help me explore that.
Oh, wonderful. But speaking of back when you lived in Ontario, there was a band that came up on your radar. We're switching genres here for a bit of more of a pop act. This band is called Chalk. What are they all about?
Chalk Circle, yeah.
Chalk Circle, oh, okay.
They're a Canadian band, and I guess they're around in the mid-80s. And they got a lot of radio play in Ontario and probably out here. And it's just one of their hits, Myself and I.
Okay, cool. Let's go have a bit of a throwback here. This is a band called Chalk Circle. I found the LP in our record library, featuring Chris Tate on vocals, Brad Hopkins on bass guitar, Derek Murphy on drums, Tad Winks-Lars on keyboards and saxophone, Chris Wardman on wobbly guitar. What the hell is that? Wobbly guitar. So this was recorded winter 1985 to spring 1986. So right now, right back to the mid-80s in Canadian music, Chalk Circle, as recommended by our guest today, Michael Raphael, aka Coolfog. And I should say, when you were playing that last track by Delirium, finally an Australian electronic act popped into my head, because I'm a bit of a Luddite. I don't know much about the scene there, but one classic song popped into my head, and I'm going to get to that right after this too. So, okay, so that song there, that's a classic. That's from an outfit called Itchy and Scratchy from Australia. The track's called Sweetness and Light, and that charted, that song back in the day. It got to number 65 on the Australian charts in 1994. So there you go. Do you like that, Michael?
Oh, I did.
Yeah, that one jumped out at me. I knew something would, at least one, because I had to represent the entire Australian electronic music scene in one song, and that's probably a good one to start with. Thanks so much, Michael, for coming down. Michael Raphael, aka Coolfog. No problem. Yeah, I'd love to keep in touch and hear some more of what you're producing. It's like I say, it's added to the show here tremendously. What can you tell us about your current, what are you doing right now? Like, are you still tinkering away?
Yeah, well, I basically, I just got a Yamaha SY77, which is kind of an FM synth, and I think it needs some repairs, so I'm going to probably try to fix it up. And then I have a sequencer, a Yamaha sequencer that I got a few months ago, and I'm just working on that, and I'm going to work on my next tracks will probably involve those two synths. And yeah, I just keep on, I produce about a track every month or every 2 months.